Staying on top of what's going on in your industry takes time. Reading blogs, checking newsletters, scrolling through forums. Most small business owners know they should be doing it, but it's usually one of the first things that fades away when things get busy. But what if you can gather all the information you need without ever having to search for it yourself? Imagine every Monday morning an email in your inbox with a clean summary of what's new, written in plain language, ready for you to read over your routine. Today I'm going to show you how to build a version of that in n8n. We're going to pull articles from an RSS feed, run them through AI to generate a digest, and have it delivered to your inbox on a schedule automatically every week. This happens to be the same foundation I built for my own agency before taking it a lot further, which is something I'll talk about a bit more later on in the video. Alright, we're going to get started with a blank workflow. We're going to build this from the left to the right with 6 nodes together in one clean chain. Each node has one job, and together they'll run the whole process automatically. The first node that we'll talk about is a schedule trigger. This is what's going to start the whole workflow automatically on a set schedule, with no manual input needed. Without this, nothing will run on its own. I'm going to set it to fire every Monday morning at 6 a.m. Done. Every Monday at 6 a.m., this workflow will wake up and start running. Once you set it up yourself, you can forget about it. Next, we need to actually go and fetch the content that we need. For that, I'm going to use something called an RSS Feed read node. If you've never heard of RSS, it's a live feed that most blogs and news sites publish quietly in the background. Instead of you visiting a website to check for new posts, your workflow goes and grabs them automatically. Most blogs have one, including the sources most relevant to your business. For this tutorial, I'm going to use the n8n blog. You can swap this for any source that makes sense for your own industry. That's it for this node. When it runs, it'll pull back a list of recent articles from that feed. Now here's a step that's easy to skip but important to include. The data coming out of that RSS feed isn't perfectly clean, because different feeds format things slightly differently. Before we hand anything to the AI, we want to make sure that the fields are consistent. And that's what the set node does. It lets us define exactly what fields we want to keep and what to call them. Title, summary, link, publish date, and source. Think of it as tidying the data before passing it forward. Clean input leads to better AI output. Now everything coming through is structured and consistent. But there's one more thing that we need to do before passing it to the AI. At this point, the workflow has a separate item for every article the RSS feed returned. If we pass that directly to the AI agent, it would process each article one by one and send a separate email for each one. That's not what we want. The aggregate node solves this. It collects all the individual articles and bundles them into a single batch before anything moves forward. One batch in, one digest out, one email sent. I'm going to set it to aggregate all item data into a field called articles. Now instead of 10 separate items, we have one single item containing all 10 articles. That's what gets handed to the AI. Next will be the core of the whole workflow. The AI agent node is what reads all those articles and writes the digest. It needs a language model to run on, so I'm going to open an OpenAI chat model underneath it, and I'll set that to GPT-4o. Inside the AI agent, there's a system prompt. It tells the AI who it's writing for, what tone to use, how long the output should be, and what format to follow. The quality of your digest lives and dies in this prompt, so it's worth being specific. For this tutorial, the prompt instructs the AI to write a friendly plain text email digest, covering the most relevant articles in language a non-technical reader can follow. No jargon, no bullet points, just a clean, readable summary of 200 or 300 words. I'll include the full prompt in the description so you can copy it directly into your own workflow. The AI agent will now receive a full batch of articles, run it through GPT-4o using that prompt, and return a single formatted digest as its output. The last node that we'll need is Gmail, and this is where the digest will actually get delivered. The workflow has done all the work by this point. This node just needs to send a result to your inbox. I'm going to connect my Gmail account, set the recipient address, and write the subject line. I'll use a dynamic subject that automatically pulls in the current date, so every email arrives clearly labeled without any extra effort. And that's the complete workflow. Let me show you how it all connects before we run it. The schedule trigger fires on Monday. The RSS feed pulls in the articles. The set node cleans the data. The aggregate node bundles everything into one batch. The AI agent writes the digest, and the Gmail delivers it. 6 nodes, fully automatic. Let's run it. I'll set the trigger manually so we don't have to wait until next Monday. You can see it moving through each node, fetching the articles, normalizing the data, bundling them together, passing into the AI, and generating an output. Now let's check the inbox. There it is, one email, one digest, covering everything from that feed. Let me read a little bit of what was generated. So, your weekly dose of automated inspiration. Hello there, here's your quick catch up on the latest from the n8n blog, diving into some fascinating new tools and concepts for enhancing your workflow automation. Clean, readable, and it got there completely on its own. And that's a simplified version. One RSS source, a straightforward AI prompt, and a plain text email. If you set one up today, you'll have a scheduled digest in your inbox without ever having to worry about it unless it needs an update. Now there's a few things that you'll need to consider before relying on a version like this fully. If the RSS feed has no new posts that week, the workflow will still run and the AI will have nothing to work with. You'd want to add a check for that. If you bring in multiple sources, you'll need to handle duplicates because the same story can appear across different feeds. And every time the agent runs, it's making an API call to your AI model, so as you scale up, those calls will be worth keeping an eye on. All of that is exactly why I kept building on this foundation when I developed Artemis for my own agency. A link to that case study is in the description if you're interested in seeing what a full system looks like. If you're thinking about building your own version, let me know in the comments for the industry that you'll be tracking. I'll read all of them.